There were buckets that helped to contain some of the mess, but other buckets were spewed onto the floor in the corner of the room next to the man who was silent in the corner. The doctor already knew what I was going to ask him and decided to respond. These gentlemen choose to release themselves of their freedom and remain here. My assistants come in periodically and remove fecal matter and feed the patients. As for the one in the back, his eyes point to the one in the corner, his body has yet to be removed from the room and to be utilized in some new form. You see, Mr. Farrell, we did not dispose of anyone in this facility. In this facility, the basic laws of nature are what we govern in this facility. It's the strong versus the weak, free versus the grounded, kill or be killed. Human ideals are challenged the minute you enter this facility, and no one escapes. All the assistants who care for my patients are loyal and are part of an ongoing project to understand everything about human nature. Our funding comes from outside sources, and all who oppose the laws of the facility, patient or non-patient, well, he pointed to the screen, and what I saw still makes me question my humanity. On the screen, there was what appeared to be a series of rooms within the facilities. The first scene of the show was what appeared to be a cafeteria, and a patient reviews the food and screamed about planning to leave. He was beaten senseless by other patients and was dragged out by the assistants of the facility. The next scene was of one of the rooms and had an assistant inside. The room was locked from the outside, and when the assistant was screaming to be let out of the facility, 2 other assistants proceeded into the room and injected the screaming assistant with the unknown liquid that had put him to sleep. The other assistants dragged him out of the room, and the television flickered to another room, one where there was one suspended microphone. The room was dark except for one spotlight. An assistant with a mask on spoke into the microphone with an announcer-like voice. "And now for our subjects." The 2 men were presented into the spotlight by assistants hidden in the dark. Both men were strapped down to the rolling chairs. "It's time for us to spin the..." All of the awake patients start chanting, "Wheel of Death!" The announcer then welcomed a wheel with images of various images indicating methods of death, and he began spinning it. "Let's see what will be today." The wheel spins on for what feels like minutes, while the patients quietly chant, "Death! Death! 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 Death!" The wheel stops on an image of a decapitated man. The announcer vocally announces the result with the microphone. "Death by decapitation!" The room fills with cheers as 2 assistants come in with sharp machetes aimed right next to the seated men. The 2 men begin to weep and plead for their lives as the assistants prepare for the act. "On the count of 3, sound the announcer. 1, 2. The 2 assistants taking the fake swings in the necks of the men. The doctor told me solemnly, "Pay attention, Mr. Farrell," although I could not do anything to tear my eyes away from the screen. The announcer yells out with a dreadful, 3, and the assistants cleanly slice the 2 men's heads off. "That's all for now, folks. Tune in next time for the Wheel of Death. Till next time." And the screen faded to static. The patients in the room were cheering, pleased with the result, and were discussing what was going to happen to the 2 now dead men. I wanted to know what happened to the 2 men. "Dr. Murdoch, what will happen to 2 of the bodies of those men?" My heart was practically beating out of its chest. His response was long but rather simple. "Anyone who wants to leave this facility meets with an untimely and gruesome death. The leftovers are used as material in the courtyard for recreational purposes. I could barely take what was happening, but after that comment, my anxiety started to resolve itself. The fact that I was no longer anxious terrified me more than anything else. Why do you allow for all these horrible things to happen? I test the resolve of any man who enters this facility, replied the doctor. No one escapes this facility, and all who cannot enjoy this facility for what it is are either placed in the freedless room, spins around the room for extra measure, or are disposed of, as you just witnessed. Well, I'm afraid that about concludes the main tour of this facility itself. The only question now is, are you interested? How could a question like that even be plausible after what I just witnessed? But I did feel a sense of relief when I was in this place, and I did not exactly want to leave the first place I had been in years that did not bring me anxiety. None of this made sense. I was witnessing the torture and deaths of people who have been forgotten by society and left to die. Why was I no longer disturbed by this cruel and inhumane idea of an experiment? And why did this idea of working with Dr. Murdoch sound so exciting? My mind was saying no, but my finely calm body did not want to ever leave. He obviously would not have shown me this if he did not anticipate the chance that I would accept his offer, and I'm sure the alternative would be something much worse than what I had just witnessed. I decided, as much as my mind was wanting to leave. No. I stuttered in fear, as I watched the intrigued smile that was spread across Dr. Murdoch's face. He was just waiting to hear me say those 4 words. And finally, after one last sigh, I accept your offer. Wonderful! I'm sure you now realize I was not planning on letting you go, but in any case, this is great news. I could tell that much of this frightened you at first, but you immediately came round and saw the good that a place like this has to offer. You really are a trooper, you know. You've shown the most resolve of any of my previous assistants. You start your training today, my boy. Let's get you outfitted and start by writing down your observations of patients in the courtyard. Those words still ring in my head to this day. It's been a year since I joined this facility, and the program was shut down only recently. I would like to continue the project, but it was mandated to be a crime against humanity, so it had to be shut down. I admit I'm not proud of what I had done, but I tell you this story now because of what I went through. We do not know what we are capable of until we reach our worst moments. Only then do we realize our true nature. Our experiences, our fears, our morals, and our ideals are all brought into question when we venture into our true nature as human beings. But that story is ancient history. I received my certification and now own this practice here at the Greenwood Mental Institution. This is an entirely new practice full of its own experiments. My name is Dr. Farrell, and I can assure you, sir, that this job opportunity will be one that you will never surely forget.